Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome. It is episode number 122 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan, and I'm your host, Catherine Erdley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group and consultancy for product businesses. You can find out more at resilientretailclub.com. And also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd love to invite you to pre-order your copy of my book, which is coming out on the 21st of February 2023. It's called Tame Your Tiger: How to Stop Your Product Business Eating You Alive. And you can get it from bookshop.org. If you head over there or look for the link in the show notes, you'll be able to get your copy by searching Catherine Erdley or Tame Your Tiger, and you'll be able to pre-order it. So you'll be the first to have it in your hands when it launches on the 21st of February. I can't wait. It makes a huge difference with book sales to have a good number of pre-orders. So if you were able to support me that way, I would be so appreciative. And I just know you're going to love it. It was written with you in mind, with product businesses. And I feel like it's going to be a great way for you to kick off 2023. So go check it out. On to today's episode, I am joined by Elle Williamson, who is the Ecommerce Assistant. She has an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things email marketing and websites. She was recommended for the podcast by Helen from Disco Kids, a client of mine who I know listens to all the episodes. So shout out to Helen. She said that Elle would be a brilliant person to have on the podcast. She was absolutely right. We go through some real nuggets, real gems from Elle when it comes to all things getting your website and your email marketing ready for 2023. You want to kick us off by telling us who you are and about your business?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. So I'm Elle. I founded the Ecommerce Assistant, and I help founder-led brands to sell more online, but predominantly from their own websites. And I now specialize in Shopify websites and Klaviyo email marketing. So it's all about trying to build that brand awareness and get some more sales through their own website.
Fantastic. And such a great pairing, I know, from members in the club there.
Yes.
I always say to people, well, I don't really know. I mean, I have come across people who didn't like their Shopify website, but they were very, very few and far between.
Yes.
I have to say, I would say the vast majority of people just get on very well with Shopify and Klaviyo in partnership. Yeah.
They're a great partnership. They are both so easy to use. They're user friendly. They can both be overwhelming. And that's when I do training, that's something I talk to people about. Sometimes it's just knowing where that thing is, and then it's like, gosh, that's so easy. So yeah, they are both, they're built for doing it yourself, and that's something I fully promote. So yeah.
Amazing. So obviously this podcast episode will be going out the very end of, or the beginning of December, actually. So the Christmas rush is kind of well underway, but I wanted to just sort of start us off thinking a little bit about obviously your website at Christmas, and how can brands now start to think about springing forward into 2023?
I mean, I think it's a great time. And I think December is generally actually that quiet time. You might get a busy first week, 2 weeks. It depends when Christmas Day actually falls. But, most people are now saying, their cutoff dates are sort of going to be next week, the first, second week of December. And actually what I found from always working in e-commerce businesses is then that time is so precious almost to then go, right, what's happening next year? Your sales are probably, there's a few people that might have a sale running in late December, but actually it's a nice time to go, right, what happened this year? What can we do next year? And use that time to really think about the website, hopefully, because I know that it can be neglected often. I see it as part of the marketing mix. So yes, you might be running Facebook ads, you might be doing your email, your social, all these other things and things like that this time of year. But actually, it's really important to just remember the website and the part that plays as well. So if you can start to plan for next year, some updates. I mean, the key thing for me is getting that Christmas stuff off as soon as it's not Christmas. Like I see in early January, people still have Christmas banners up and Christmas delivery dates and pop-ups that are promoting something that's been and gone. And I find that quite frustrating because I'm like, oh no, I'm past that. I'm the person that takes their Christmas tree down on Boxing Day. So, I'm already ahead into January, right? Back to school, January, all those sort of feelings. So I think just doing that website maintenance is actually really important, sort of as we get into late December. And then I would be thinking of the year ahead and the things that people can do to improve their websites. And I think that next year, a big trend for e-commerce is going to be about personalization. By that, I don't mean, personalized products, products with names on. I mean, on your website, just being more personable, just how Klaviyo sends these really targeted, personalized emails. There's kind of ways we can do that on your Shopify site now as well. And that's not with AI, although there are sites that are starting to include that. This is simple stuff. This is just making sure that, the right product is shown with its sort of counterpart, its matching product, and little things like this. So I think if you can focus on that next year, that would be something brilliant to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic advice. We always used to call it Snapback. So Snapback was literally like Christmas is out. Yeah. Actually, in a lot of retailers, it's actually Christmas is out, Valentine's is in. That was always the Snapback. It was like, goodbye Christmas on the, pretty much as soon as 26th of December, it all goes in the sale and then out they will. And you always see it in I think supermarkets are always the ones who do that. And then it's like the day after Valentine's, all of the Mother's Day stuff's out, or the Easter eggs. Yeah. And it's just like, boom, boom. There's just no messing around. But you're so right. It's that feeling when you go on there in January and somebody has, stocking fillers and you think,
not really what I'm looking for. I think the supermarkets are actually, even though we all have a little moan, don't we, when we see hot cross buns in January, whatever it is, actually that it's quite good to take a lead from them in terms of getting on it, like you say, and going to the next thing and making that, refreshing your website as well. It's lovely for people to see different things. So it's hard. It's definitely hard, but you've got to try and stay one step ahead of the game.
To clean up anything that you've added, any specific categories that you've added.
Yeah, that navigation, most people add a Christmas collection into their navigation. They might have a huge mega menu of Christmas. There might be banners, the delivery pages, even the content on their product pages and collections. A lot of people are right now, all that content is aimed towards gifting to others. And obviously that might be temporary. So it's actually, you've got to go in and take that all back to that sort of evergreen rest of the year sort of content. And if you can do that sort of late December, I do think that's great. It's one less job to do in January, right? When you're back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then switch over to the new year, new you, and
that old classic. Yeah.
The well-being and organisation, that's always what we wheeled out.
I think it's always just, aligning with what's going on at the time of year. Not every brand has, back to school stuff or health benefits to them. But it's always well, actually, that's what my customers are sort of thinking about. And I guess it's always just trying to aim the website content towards that, just so it's relevant. And people don't feel oh, you've not bothered to do that. Does someone actually, is this website real and genuine?
That's so true. Yeah. Has anyone touched this? Is it just going to take my money and nothing's going to arrive? So you talked there a little bit about personalized communication, which big businesses have been trying to crack for a long time. And then obviously as technology improves, then small businesses is more accessible to small businesses.
Yeah.
So you said there about kind of looking at your website. If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, that sounds great, Elle, but I've literally no idea where to start. What would you say to someone who came to you with that?
Okay, so if they're on Shopify, the first thing I'd be looking at is if they have upgraded or updated to something called Shopify 2.0. Some people have heard of it, it's been around since last July now. So actually it's not particularly new, but it's taken a while to just filter down to sort of sellers for them to sort of go, oh, actually, that is quite useful. So if you don't know at all what it is and you've never actually heard of this, Shopify 2.0, it's the same Shopify. It's nothing, you're not moving platform or anything. All it is they've upgraded all their themes to this new Shopify 2.0, and you're going to get a lot more features. and it's going to be easier to use. I've got some things I can run through in a sec, benefits to you. So, but I don't think Shopify have actually communicated that very well to all the lovely small businesses that use the platform. But by just looking into that and upgrading to that, if you like, that's going to be, I think, your ticket to doing some of these quite cool personalized sort of upgrades to your website, like the things you see on the big brands that you're like, oh, I really want that. I have seen and I believe that that's now more accessible for small brands with Shopify 2.0.
Can you give us some examples of what that might look like?
Absolutely. So the top thing is probably something called sections everywhere. So everyone who has Shopify is used to dragging and dropping on their homepage, all their lovely blocks, their sections, and creating quite a nice, homepage for people to land on. But as they get into their collection and their product pages, most people have said for however many years now, product pages are a bit boring. They're not very interesting. There's not been much you can do with them unless you use a page builder or you have a lot of custom coding, which is not accessible for most people. So now the sections everywhere means that just as your homepage, you can drag in all these lovely content blocks. You can now do that on product pages, collection pages, your about page. What let Shopify down was kind of this kind of boring page ability to sort of make these beautiful pages that other website builders did better. Now you can do that. And I think the focus being on your product page, that's what I've been talking to a lot of people about. So adding in that extra content, like about the brand, about the products, showing those other products they might buy, building those bundles. Like, there's just so much you can do with it. Even that in itself is amazing to use that. Like, that's just one thing. And the other thing in terms of personalization specifically would be something called meta fields, which some people might have heard of, some people won't have. It's not scary at all. It's basically just putting the data about your products in a different place. And that's now something that's also available with Shopify 2.0. So it means that you can now have that relevant information on each product page. So whereas before you might have had tabs included in your theme, but you were sort of putting that generic information, like a generic delivery information, generic product information. Now, by using meta fields, you can have that very specific data and information for people to read. So the care instructions for a specific product, ingredients, depending on what you sell, it's being able to assign that data to the right product and it's showing for customers to see. So it's really cool. Like, it's a really cool, once you get your head around it, it is easy, I promise. And it's just a different way of sort of uploading your products and putting that data in a different place for it to show really, like I say, almost this personalized content. So it's showing that relevant product content to people.
So it's just allowing you, so that, for example, so one thing that I often talk to people about is if you're talking about your product and it has a very specific way that it's made or a very specific materials used to create it, that you might want to have, for example, if you're a linen brand, you might have a page devoted just to talk about your linen fabric and where it comes from and everything else like that. But you could almost then pull that into every page that had linen as its fabric type.
Absolutely. And obviously we don't actually want to move people away from the product page. Like, we want to convert them. The goal there is add to cart. Like, it's such an important page. Obviously most of your website pages are important, but somebody might already have built a beautiful page about their linen. So they're sort of sending people away to it. But actually what we can do now is go, here's a beautifully designed section that's got an image and like that key snippet of content. Like, you don't need loads because obviously we're all lazy and we're not going to read that much. And also by using the meta fields, you can have that like material sort of composition, that's that spec, almost what you'd expect to see when you're shopping on a label. Like, you just spec, if you only buy cotton bedding, I'm like, oh, I need to check that. It's giving people the ability to just see all that information really broken down as well, like quite bite size, which is just, we all love that, just to see those little bits rather than this big long product description, for example. Both of those are amazing. There's other things as well, like integrating apps is now a lot easier through Shopify 2.0. There's less coding need to be done. It's just like a little toggle on the theme. The site speeds are faster. And what was the other one? Oh, the theme editor is, I would say, easier to use. It's maybe slightly more overwhelming now. You've basically got more choice, which is not always a good thing. You've got more options that you can play around with. Like, it's easier now to say, actually, I want the price down there, right above the add to cart, or you want it right up the top next to the name. That's now easier to do and just have that absolute control over your product page, for example, and having that control over the layout.
As a kind of general theme then, because obviously a lot of people listening will be using Shopify websites, but not everybody. So do you think that this kind of shift for Shopify, do you think this is kind of the way that e-commerce is moving in general, that people really need to have this information at their fingertips? Is do you think it's in recognition of the fact that, I always say this about e-commerce, it's like you need to give people all of the information in one place that they need to make that purchase decision right then and there, and you need to give it to them in as much detail as they need in order to press that buy button with confidence. Businesses and software always roll out improvements, but do you think it feels like that's almost like part of what they're doing behind this, is that recognition that it's got to be about delivering the information that the customer wants at the right time?
Absolutely. And delivering it in that easy to digest way. Like, yes, I totally agree. You need to tell a customer literally everything. And I see that a lot where people have kind of, I'm like, why haven't you told them you do that? Why haven't you told them you beautifully wrap their orders or whatever it is? So yes, you need to tell them everything that you do, even if you think it's insignificant. But I guess it's about that way you present that information. And, you know, a website, even from sort of 5 years ago, would be this long list of description that it's prose, you know, we're not all going to read that, and it's so hard to digest, especially shopping on our phones, because that is just scroll. And now, yes, I think that shift to, yes, all the information is there, more information if anything, but it's also broken down into these like really nice, like, need to know. So like somebody might not care about the composition of something, but somebody, it really does matter to them purchasing, and it's there for them to sort of, you know, get to if they need to.
So will you be able to even minimize things if people don't want to look at that? They don't have to scroll down, they can just sort of expand certain options, certain
Absolutely.
areas.
Like I think most websites now, if you go on them, if you've got like a big brand or even a smaller brand, I think most people are utilizing tabs on their product page. So creating those and having that, like I say, that personalized, relevant product information into those is now easier to do. So if you've seen that on like John Lewis, for example, it's like, well, actually, you can do that now on your Shopify site. You do not need a big web development team. You're able to do those things. And that's what I say to people a lot. Like, if you've seen any big brand, you're like, oh, I really like how they've laid that out, or they've got this extra little thing, there's usually a way we can do it. There might be an app. I'm not saying you won't need any apps, but most things are now much more easy to achieve, especially on that like product page, collection page. The homepage hasn't changed a huge amount. There's a couple of things better, but I've been really focusing on people's product pages and like making sure they're like super optimized. And like you say, because they have that purpose of, we've got to get them to add to cart. We've got to get them to really like buy into you as a brand, your product, like all those things are happening on that one page.
So if you had someone who came to you, and this is a big question, but just sort of a couple of top tips. If you had someone who came to you and they felt that their conversion was below where they wanted it to be, which is probably, you know, I feel like it's one of those things, isn't it? People always are like, I can always do more with my conversion, which is true. There's always more to do. But let's say somebody came to you and they were really struggling with conversion on their product pages. What would be some of the top things that you'd look for or you'd ask them to check
on their product page specifically? Because obviously when we talk about conversion, it's like there's so many factors, but yeah, like I always try and just focus it down. Let's think about that page where people are adding to cart, they are converting. I would say, like we've just said, like we've covered, everything needs to be there. So even if you feel that's not that important, I don't know why someone would want to know that. Put it on there. They will want to know that. Put everything on there. Make sure that everything's very clear. This is perhaps the downside to something like Shopify and any other site builder where it is do it yourself, is that you can kind of just add whatever you want on there and it gets a bit busy. So I think it's just actually, yes, have lots of information on there, but making sure it's very clear, very almost simple. And it follows the same sort of, if you go on other websites, they all sort of follow this very similar sort of formula, this layout of a product page, and it obviously works. You know, big brands are paying a lot of money to do this CRO to their websites that small brands obviously can't afford. So I always say, go out, look at websites you like. Why do you like to shop on them? What is it about that product page? What is it about that layout? Keeping things simple, getting all the information on there, making sure that you've almost tested every tab, and then that add to cart, and then that journey that you're then taking them on afterwards is quite important as well. If they do add to cart, great, but they don't see a message or the cart doesn't slide out. And also, I think I've seen a change towards product pages showing other products. So rather than just down the bottom having like you may also like, which is very common, or a recently viewed, like actually you almost curating your product range and going, this goes with this, so buy it. And just really showing people the rest of your product range, because they might have actually landed on your site into a product page. They're not necessarily taking that linear journey from homepage to collection page to product page. So actually then going, we also sell this. And I think there's ways you can do that really nicely now, whether it's bundling or it is some sort of frequently bought with, there's loads of different options, but just making sure that is there, that there's that awareness of we do sell this stuff as well. So I think that's the key things for me.
And I always think about the difference between shopping in a physical space and shopping online. And that is almost, you're kind of talking about that ability that if you were in a physical shop, then you would have, well, maybe it depends on the physical shop, you might have a sales assistant, depending on where you are, who would actually be able to tell you those things, or it would at least be extremely obvious because you were looking at a product in situ with other products around it. But on a website, you're almost having to replicate that yourself, where people are unattended, they're browsing around and you're saying to them, oh, actually, this would go really well with this.
Yeah, and giving them, I love bringing it back to like shopping in store as well. Like, what would you do in a store? Like, how would you move around? And it's exactly the same online. That's what we talk about user journey, user experience so much. And that is all that is really, isn't it? It's how they move around the site, how you get them to move. We could talk about navigation, pages, all sorts, but actually on the product page specifically, it is about making it easy for them to find other things, keeping in mind that we don't really want them to be sent off somewhere that does, we wouldn't really send them off to a blog necessarily, because that's taking them away from that sort of buying moment. But it is about that, like that full product range, especially if you have like lots of products and you sell lots of brands, or you sell lots of different types of products in your store. I like to, bring it back to like, how would you do this in a shop? Now do that online.
So we've covered kind of the snapback, as it were, from your website from Christmas to the new year. But in terms of your emails, what are sort of tasks that you think people should be thinking about this time of year to get them ready for 2023 with their email marketing?
I think now we are like literally upon Black Friday now. By the time this goes out, we'll have passed it, and we've, that craziness has gone. I would be looking at like optimizing everything. So flows, automations are amazing. They're doing heavy lifting for you, but I do encourage people to not just leave them forever, like going back in and seeing how they're doing and making them better. So what more could you tell people when you send an abandoned cart email or a welcome flow? Like, what more content is there? And checking that like journey across all your emails. So as you get used to something like Klaviyo, it's very exciting and you want to add lots more emails and flows, and like, it's wonderful. It's so easy to do that. But actually it's then going, well, hold on a minute. What emails are they getting at what point? And almost doing that, stepping back and doing that big picture thing where you look at, if this person's purchased, how many emails are they getting? Just like plotting out your flow. Some people might do that to begin with, but I do find that we're all just a bit like, let's just do that. Let's get that done. And then you step back and you go, oh gosh, they're getting sort of a clash of emails or something. So just looking at that journey. And also when you do that, you might find that a particular group of customers, for example, the people that have subscribed but never purchased, they might actually not be getting enough emails. So I would probably look at doing that, like just looking at that journey again, I guess, but through emails and optimizing all those flows. So even if your abandoned checkout is performing really well for you, like your open rates and your click rates are really good, you're really happy, it's driving revenue, it's like, or could you drive a bit more? Because even if you've got 50% open rates, that's still half of the people that aren't opening. And even if you've got 5% click rates, you've still got 95% not clicking. So I would use that time for a bit of optimization.
To go through the flows. And of course, if anyone's listening and doesn't have them setting them up. So especially things like your welcome sequence, your abandoned cart, your sort of lapsed purchaser, I guess they'd be the biggest ones. That's such a good point, because it's so easy to set these things up and then think, I always have that. I have little calendar notes for my own business where I'm like, okay, let's just check what the onboarding emails are saying. And, have you got updated imagery? Does it talk about something, maybe you set them up a year ago and things have changed and you need to update them.
Yeah, and things change like really fast for small business sometimes. Like you suddenly, might get an influx of imagery, a load of new products. You might have branched out into another product range or something. And then you actually look back and you go, oh my gosh, my welcome email doesn't even include those products or talk about that side of the business, or it might just not feel so relevant now. I think, businesses change just so quickly and time just goes so fast that actually it's worth stepping back and taking a look at them. If they're set up, if they're not set up, definitely be prioritizing those key flows that do drive revenue. So welcome, like you say, all the abandoned checkouts, browse, carts. And then, other flows. I always like to say to people, like, really optimize what you've got, because it is, like you say, so easy to go, I'll just build this flow now. So just like going, right, build those. Are they optimized? Are they working? Have I checked in on them? And then kind of going to that next level of flows, if you like.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've certainly been sort of banging the email marketing drum a lot with people recently, because I just think, especially when you think about something like Twitter and what's happened over there.
Yeah.
Imagine if that had been Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram, I feel like there's been maybe more hate than love, but there's been this love-hate relationship definitely this year, maybe last year as well. And people have fallen out of love with it. But a lot of people have almost built their business from it by, especially if we look all the way back to 2020 and lockdowns, it was this quite easy route to getting brands out there. And obviously now it's far, far more difficult to do that. Email marketing is certainly not dead in the water. If anything, it's just doing so well for people. And I am promoting it as much as I can for people, because it's that way of talking directly to your customers. Like it's amazing to be able to do that. Perhaps that's what Instagram did do for a lot of us years ago or even months ago, but actually email marketing, it's like directly into their inbox. You can build that rapport, you can build that communication, you can get people to reply to your emails, especially something like a thank you flow, which I like to build for people, where it literally just thanks them for their order. It's personal from the brand owner, and you do get replies to those sort of emails, which is lovely for brands. Yeah.
Do you suggest also like aftercare and things like that?
That post-purchase experience is actually quite important, and it can be quite difficult to think, oh, well, what do I need to say to people? But yes, if your product does require some sort of care or instruction, like that's what should be going out, and then checking in on people, like, are they okay? Have they managed to build it or use it? Whatever it is, like, it obviously hugely depends on what you sell. But I think it's not just about, oh, they haven't ordered for X amount of time, let's send them a win back email. I think it's more about making sure they have this relevant, targeted information about what they've bought and what they need from us. Because, you're probably going to ask them for a review. So actually you want to make sure you've given them everything they need to really enjoy their product, or if it's a gift, like making sure that their giftee enjoyed their products and things like that. So I think post-purchase experience is one to maybe look at as well, if you have a product that does need that little bit of help.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so interesting, because I think we've seen this shift already this year, but I think 2023, it's going to become even more the year of that loyalty retention piece, because quite frankly, the acquisition piece, the other end of it, is just more challenging. So then that nurturing relationship, I think, is going to become even more important.
Absolutely. And I think if you can start using email and thinking of it not just as like a conversion, a revenue driver, although it is that definitely, because it's a huge revenue driver. If you can actually think of it as that nurturing communication, talking to your audience, and usually brands have got lots to say. Small brands have got heaps to tell their audience. They do it on Instagram. It's like almost converting what you might do on Instagram, those stories, those posts, and just converting it into emails. And obviously you want to be sending campaigns as well. It's not all about flows, but obviously flows is something you can preempt. If you've got that time in late December, it's something you can be doing. But you can also be planning your campaigns and thinking, what am I going to say? What have I got to tell my audience? What do I want to communicate? And not just be sell. Like we don't want that, really. We don't want just sales emails.
No. This is that nurturing piece as well. Fantastic. Well, Elle, do you want to tell us a little bit more about how we can find out more about working with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, funnily enough. I'm occasionally on there at the Ecommerce Assistant. I'm not very good at posting on there because, time, but I do my best, and I'll always reply to DMs if anyone wants to get in touch. And then my website is theecommerceassistant.com, and there's lots of information on there. I am going through a bit of a shift myself with my business and how I work with people. So I'm moving more to training and teaching, because I think there's this big need for almost this e-commerce education. So rather than just going, can you do this for me, Elle? I want to be able to sort of help people do it themselves, because that's what Shopify and Klaviyo are for. It's for doing it yourself. So just drop me a message if you want to learn more about that.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let me know. Are you on Shopify? Did you know about Shopify 2.0? Are you going to head over there and get it upgraded right away? Why not come over and see me on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club? Tell me what your takeaways were from the episode. Tell me what you're planning on doing for 2023. And of course, if you want to share a photo of where you are, when you're listening to the podcast, I always love to see those. So thank you so much. If you have a moment to follow or subscribe to the podcast, you'll be the first to know about every new episode. And it actually makes a really big difference with podcasts, the number of people who've subscribed or following it. So if you have a moment and you enjoy it, do head over to whatever you use to listen to your podcast and make sure that you are following us. And of course, if you have a minute to rate and review the podcast, it is absolutely so important and helpful. And I'm very appreciative to everyone who takes the time to do so. Otherwise, I will see you next week. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.